So there's been a few instances recently where people have either been getting laid off or they've been resigning from companies, especially around the kind of Sony area of the industry. So we've got 4 instances at the moment where it's kind of past few weeks really. So there's been Jack Tretton, who resigned from Sony Computer America. There's been Amy Hennig, who we kind of don't really know exactly how she managed to leave Naughty Dog, but it's kind of been either forced out or... Well, it pretty much is forced out, but there's not been really a reason as to why she's kind of left the company.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's been Santa Monica, where they've kind of laid off 50 employees out of their 200. And Robin's got an idea as to why they've kind of been laid off, because they thought it was something to do with the new IP, which didn't kind of go well. And then finally, there has been Irrational Games, which was kind of like last month, where they've pretty much, their company's pretty much shut down, and Ken Levine, who was the founder of the company Irrational Games, has left that company behind and kind of taken about 20, I think, employees forward to go and make indie games. Yeah. So I wondered what you guys all thought of all these kind of layoffs, and how are they kind of linked together, or is there just like kind of random things that all happen at the same time?
Well, honestly, I don't think that they are linked in any way, to be honest. Just, there are a couple of, unfortunate events that just happened around the same time. And yeah, people are kind of like, saying, well, maybe it all has to do something with each other. I don't believe that. I think it's best to just, talk about every one of them individually, because, yeah, like I said, I don't expect them to be linked. So maybe it's just best to start off with each of them individually. So yeah, Callum, which one should we start off with?
Should we start with Amy Hennig from Naughty Dog? Seems we all know the most about that.
Yeah. Well, go ahead, Callum.
Well, yeah, it's a few days ago that it was reported that she was pushed out of Naughty Dog by Neil Druckmann and Bruce Straley. I don't think that she would have been pushed out, to be honest. It's been 10 years that she joined in 2004, so I don't see why she would have been suddenly pushed out after 10 years of service to such a great games developer. What do you think, Oscar?
Well, it's difficult to think, because obviously with Naughty Dog, they are very, very, very concise in what they let out to the public. They really don't say much at all. So they pretty much only really ever release anything when it's kind of E3 or something big, where they've released games like the VGAs. They always release. We thought they would have released another trailer for Uncharted 4, whatever you want to call it, at the VGXs or whatever they're called in December last year.
Yeah.
But they didn't. They had all these kind of rubbish things as well. Really, it wasn't really very entertaining at all. But yeah, I remember thinking that Naughty Dog never really released anything, and it was strange actually when they released a statement about this Amy Hennig thing. But it was because it was such big news. Naughty Dog felt they had to kind of reply to all this kind of hype that they'd got. Yeah. And so in that statement they talked about how Neil Druckmann and Bruce Straley had nothing to do with it. They had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
Which to me is quite surprising, because I thought that Neil Druckmann is pretty much the other creative director of Naughty Dog, who he was the creative director for The Last of Us, and did work very closely with Amy Hennig when they were doing the Uncharted series. So basically, it was quite interesting to think that, or to see that they had no kind of influence on this decision, and that it was pretty much purely Christoph Ballester and oh shit, what's the other one? What's his name? Evan Wells, that's his name. That's the one. Evan Wells, who is these are the two co-presidents of Naughty Dog, and apparently, everything has to go through them pretty much, and that means that basically those two are the people who put Amy Hennig out of the company. That's what I'd see anyway. But Robin, what do you think about that? I mean, I think it's quite. I don't know. It's difficult to gauge from just that little statement. Really.
Nah, I agree mostly with you, Oscar. I think. Honestly, if you want my opinion, I think it's 100% sure that she was forced out of Naughty Dog, because if you just look at her tweets or you look at the Naughty Dog website or whatever, that statement that you talked about, they don't say in any way that she left for her own reasons. She didn't make that clear on Twitter or anything. She was. You could see that she was very unhappy with the decision. So I think it's almost sure that they wanted her to leave. And then yeah, I mean the reason for why she left, that's what's so unclear to me, and what I'm really wondering about what happened there exactly. If the Last of Us guys aren't involved, that means that somebody either at Naughty Dog or something, the whole Uncharted team has been complaining about the plot or whatever, or just the co-presidents themselves. But I mean, you're firing the creative director, the person who writes the script for the whole game. You're firing that person, and then there is nobody else left. So I'm just thinking, why would you do that? I mean, somebody has to take over, right? So I honestly really don't know what happened. They've all been very vague about this whole situation, but I think it's sure that something nasty happened there. But what it is, we just don't know about that. And at this point, I'm just wondering, are we ever going to find out? I honestly don't think so, because I mean, they would have said that then by now. Maybe sometime in a few years they'll finally talk about it or something, or it gets brung up or something, and they talk about it. But honestly, I think we're never really going to find out what happened there. But to be honest, I'm pretty sure that she was forced out. For what reasons, we can only guess. So I think it's good to move on to the next story. Oscar, what happened with Jack Tretton?
Well, Jack Tretton was the president of Sony Computer Entertainment America, who is basically like pretty much the person who kind of keeps control of America's kind of Sony corporation, or Sony Entertainment Corporation. So he kind of looks after, like, say, and he actually did all the E3 press conferences for the past, like, what was it, like 4-5 years or something like that.
Definitely 5 years. Yeah.
And so and he was actually the person who kind of, if you remember it rightly, he actually was the person who kind of announced that Sony, or the PS4, was never going to have any DRM, so they'd be able to use games, trade it in, etc. And it was the massive cheering and everything. And I think everyone who's ever watched any press conferences at E3 would remember that.
Yeah.
So that was a pretty good thing, and that's who he is. And he's resigned, and so that basically means that he did it himself. He wasn't forced out like Amy Hennig was. And so that kind of means that he clearly felt that he was in a good enough state to leave the company. Now, what that actually means in terms of Sony itself is quite difficult, because we don't actually know what's going to happen now, who's going to do all the press conferences. And apart from the, I don't know who the dude. I'm going to look on Google now because I don't actually know what his name is. But who's the person who's overtaken him?
Yeah, he was called Sean Layden or something, I think.
Sean Layden, that was his name. I don't even
Sean Layden.
search. Yeah, Sean Layden. He's the person who was he in charge of the Sony Computer Entertainment Network or something like that?
Yeah, something
or
with
like
network.
PSN.
Yeah.
And I don't know who he actually is. Like, I've never even heard of him, so I didn't really know. I was kind of a bit skeptical. I was like, this dude is taking over from Jack Tretton, who's been in the company for 19 years. He was the person who was part of the team that launched the original PlayStation, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I was just like, this dude's being overtaken by someone who was kind of head of the entertainment network. It does seem a little bit strange, but then again, maybe Sony have got the best idea. We don't know. Obviously, again, it's one of those things where Sony don't really release any statements. And also, Jack Tretton hasn't actually released where he's going to go after that, so it's quite an interesting thing. But Callum, what do you think about Jack Tretton leaving? Do you think it's going to influence anything else at the companies? So you got Naughty Dog and all them. Do you think actually that's another thing which people think about, is that whether Jack Tretton and Amy Hennig was linked, but it's probably not, to be honest.
It could influence it in a way. Like, maybe it might not get marketed as well, like PlayStation or newer stuff, like at E3 or VGX or whatever the fucking hell they're called now.
Gamescom is another one, Callum. Gamescom's another one. Is German.
Yeah, or whatever. I don't think the two are like Hennig and Tretton are linked at all, because he clearly, I'm reading it now, like an article on IGN. It says it was the result of a mutual agreement between Mr. Tretton and SCEA not to renew their contractual relationship. So he wouldn't have been forced out at all. He just clearly left for his own reasons. But I don't know how it's going to affect the gaming industry for Sony at all.
Nah, I think it doesn't really matter too much. It's just that this guy has been leading Sony, or at least the American part of Sony, for like 20 years already. I think it is pretty much ever since the PS1. So it's a shame to see him leave. I mean, to be honest, this whole story got me more disappointed than it should be, because just because I always he was always, for me, when I thought of E3, I thought of Jack Tretton, him on the stage and stuff. So that's what I'm kind of gonna miss about it, just seeing him on stage there. But I think just for the company, I mean, there's gonna be this new boss. I don't honestly think there's gonna be too much that will be changing or something. So honestly, I really don't think it's going to influence Sony in really any way. Just that there's there's going to be a new boss who's going to replace him. But for the rest, I honestly don't think there will be that many changes. And then there's two more instances which kind of had to do with whole studios or parts of studios being actually just getting laid off. All the people in there. So first of all, we had Sony Santa Monica, and because both of you didn't know shit about that, I'm just gonna tell my story of what happened here. So 50 people at Sony Santa Monica were laid off, and the theory behind that kind of right now is that they were working on this new IP or something. And we've seen that teased in God of War Ascension. There was this whole painting or something of a moon, something very futuristic it looked like. So they were working on this new IP for PS4, and the rumors right now are that IP kind of got cancelled or will be like rebooted in the future somewhere. But for now they just laid off 50 people. Really unfortunate. But yeah, I think that's really all there is to it. There's like 200 people they still have within the company working on whatever it is, God of War 4, or helping for example the guys at Ready at Dawn with the Order 1886. I know they are doing right now, and they are helping out some other studios as well with projects. So I think they're just going to move on with whatever work they were doing right now. It's unfortunate that IP got cancelled, but who knows? Maybe they'll continue with that in the future. We just don't know right now. And the last one is about Irrational Games. So Oscar, what happened there?
So, if you didn't know, Irrational Games are the company who made the original BioShock, and then BioShock Infinite. BioShock 2 was developed by, I can't remember who it was like 2K or something, or someone like that. And so basically, what's happened there is that Ken Levine, the original founder of the company, has basically laid off, I don't know how many employees, but pretty much like 90% of the employees, and taken about 20 people with him to go and be like an indie developer. So that's going to be quite an interesting kind of change from BioShock, which is a massive multi-million dollar game, franchise, and it's going to go into like indie developing. I mean, I don't see that. I don't think that BioShock will end. I think that 2K will continue. I think they've already got the actual rights to the the game.
Do you really think there's any point in them carrying on with BioShock though? I mean,
it's difficult.
They've done 3 games of it now, so.
Yeah, I know, but if you think about it, right, like you look at all the other franchises in the world, and you've got like you've got your God of Wars, you've got your Uncharted, you've got your you got loads of games basically. I can't name them off the top of my head. So yeah, Irrational Games released BioShock, the original BioShock, in 2007 for Microsoft Windows, PC and Xbox 360, and I think PS3 actually came later on. That's what it says on Wikipedia anyway, but who trusts Wikipedia these days? Between the years of 2007 and 2013, BioShock Infinite was being made, so that's 6.5 years pretty much in development for one game.
I know,
which is a long time for one game, really, when you think about how long it takes people like take Infinity Ward and EA Dice and whatever, all these companies that kind of release annual releases.
Yeah, but think about it. You've got Rockstar as well, like Rockstar North.
Rockstar,
for GTA, that's like 6-7
Yeah, but
years
Callum, here's the problem. GTA makes like a massive amounts of money for them. Like the amount that the game sells is way too much. Whereas with BioShock Infinite, it was like they worked on that for 6 years. But even though it was a successful title, it just didn't sell enough to justify those 6 years of development time.
Yeah.
That's like I agree with Oscar that BioShock will probably still be continued because it's still, like I said, a successful franchise. It just needs like a smaller studio behind it working for a smaller amount of time as well, so it can actually become profitable. But that's what I think will happen with the franchise.
So I have a feeling that maybe BioShock actually might end up not selling as well now because it's been kind of let off into 2K's hands rather than Irrational Games. So I mean that's kind of making me think that maybe BioShock won't sell as well as it will with Irrational, but who knows? Because obviously with BioShock games, it's kind of it's difficult to gauge because BioShock Infinite was such like they had all these trailers before the game actually came out, and everyone was like, "Whoa, this looks amazing!" And then it comes out and it's kind of like, it's okay.
Yeah, I mean, it was still a good game, but it just I also thought that the trailers showed it kind of made you think the game was going to be much better than what it actually turned out to be. But definitely still, it was an amazing game. It was just it's just a bit of an unfortunate situation with these companies having to shut down. I think it's just that Ken Levine wanted to make this massive massive game, and he asked for like 6 years to make that game. It was just way too much. And then he realized, I can't do this anymore. I can't like try to make such a massive game that then just won't sell enough to justify the whole development time. That's just not possible. So I think that's why he wanted to wind the studio down to like 20 employees or whatever. It was 15 or something, and just make these story-driven indie type of games. So I definitely can't wait to see what he's going to do with that. But then BioShock itself, yeah, I'm sure a different studio will take that over.
But yeah, so that's pretty much everything that we're going to talk about in this video. So we talked about 4 different companies or people who've kind of have layoffs or resigned. So yeah, the one thing we want to do before we end the video though is thank you all for subscribing, because we've got an absolutely overwhelming response from this channel. It's been incredible. We can't actually believe that we've already nearly got 400 subscribers. I think. Well, how many?
It's 379 as of half an hour ago.
As we record, it's 379, so that's pretty good, to be honest. That's 21 away from 40. So at 40,
fuck me, do you even English?
Oscar, math, seriously,
400.
Strongest point.
400. Jesus Christ, I can't even count. Okay, yeah, so 400. So that's going to be an amazing milestone when we get there. Obviously, we've already reached 100, 200, 300, so that's always amazing. But yeah, we want to thank all of you for subscribing, and absolutely amazing for the comments that we've received, all the praise that this channel's got. It's incredible, and we're still amazed by the amount of subscribers we've already got. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So thanks for watching, everyone, and hopefully we'll see you in another video.
Yeah, Robin's Dutch, bye. Sorry guys, I was just taking a shit.
I think Daddy Payne is having a bit of trouble with his cancer.
No.
Daddy Payne?
Was that a Breaking Bad reference?
You still here, Daddy? Daddy? You can just cut this in. Like,
no, I can't.
Cut it out!
Cut it out and then put it. How do I say it? No, how do I say that?
We made this mistake last in the first.
Yeah, no.
I'm just gonna start again because I can't freaking cut that in now.
Cut that in.
Fuck's sakes. Fuck you all.
We're turning Dutch.
I've caught the Dutchness. Okay.
1, 5.
1, 5. Good job at counting, Callum.
Yes.
So there's been a few fucking hell. So there's been a few instances. Instances. No.
Oscar,
no.
English.
So there's been a flu. A flu. I said flu.
There's been a flu, really? Wow, infected everywhere. Yeah.
It's like The Last of Us.
The Last of Us in real life.
So there's been a flu.
Jesus Christ, Oscar, come on.